Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. We're live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine, reaching upwards to 2 million views every single month on this little independent network that could. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. And yes, CM 1968, happy 4th to you. And I love this chat too. You guys look phenomenal on the chat today. We're going to get right to you and your comments. Thank you to Inez Annie Cyrus, who is producing the Shannon Joy Show today, the last show of the week before we launch into a holiday week. As you all know, tomorrow we will be off for the Independence Day celebration. I'll also be off on Monday. As you all know, I will be joining Dr. Peter McCullough in Chautauqua, New York, for his very important speech on vaccines, autism, and transgenderism treatments for children. It's going to be a very interesting talk. You can find information in the show notes on the Shannon Joy Show to go to that event. I believe that the tickets are free, but you have to pay to get onto the grounds. But I will be there in support of Dr. McCullough. I love that this is happening in New York State. I love that this is happening at a traditionally Democrat left-leaning gathering that happens every year. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Democrats and liberals take his message. So that's on Monday, the 7th. So we won't have a show on Monday, but we'll be back here on Tuesday, raring to go. As you know, I'm sure there will be lots of news to cover next week. So later in the program, you guys see the headline on today's show. Aaron Day, he is an expert in the technocracy, in the technocrats, crypto, digital money, you name it. We're going to have a big conversation with him today, welcoming him into the Joy Virtual Studio at the bottom of the hour. Trump's final blow to America, the big betrayal bill, the big brother bill. It is not about independence. It is about slavery. Unbelievable. 249 years after Americans declared independence from tyranny, from the tyrannical rule of the British monarchy, we are now surrendering into human slavery to the technocracy, another form of monarchy. It's not democracy. There is no essence of human rights or natural rights. This is absolutely dystopian. And we're going to be discussing this with Aaron today on the Shannon Joy Show. This is what he had to say on Twitter. The Big Brother bill, the BBB, which passed, by the way, with overwhelming Republican support. It will be signed by this president as he signs us into slavery here in the United States of America, ushering in dystopia and technocracy. It is breathtaking to watch. And I have a piece today from Patrick Wood at Technocracy that is absolutely chilling. When you understand what Trump has done to this country in the span of less than 6 months with his alliance with the godless, transhumanist, globalist, fascist technocrats, it will make your blood turn cold. And the fact that they are doing it ceremoniously on the 4th of July is not lost to me. The irony is also chilling. From Aaron Day, the Big Brother bill furthers technocracy and surveillance. Predictably, MAGA and MAHA supporters not appreciating that these investments will be weaponized against them in the future. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act's 135 to 150 billion for police militarization, AI surveillance, and financial monitoring paired with real ID, Palantir's citizen database, and stablecoins as veiled central banking digital currencies fast tracks a technocratic agenda centralizing control over Americans' lives unlike anything we have seen in human history. And Trump has done this with the fake Doge cost-cutting efforts, all of the fake headlines, all of the fake executive orders, the flurry of headlines from the paid propagandists and conservative media, Con Inc. and BizarroCon, also the left-wing media, have completely shrouded this dystopian plan that is sitting for all to see in this big betrayal bill. From Patrick Wood, happy birthday, America. Here is your present, enslavement. AI.Gov will be exclusively run by technocrats to achieve technocratic ends. They are techno-fascists. There is no democracy. There is no separation of powers. There is no transparency. There is no consent of the governed. There is no natural rights enshrined by a constitution. None of that exists in the technocracy. And we're going to explore that before we bring Aaron Day into the Joy Virtual Studio in this first segment. It is tragic that the day before we celebrate our independence, we are being thrust into a new type of 21st century digital slavery by this president. There is nothing to celebrate. We have lost our country. We have lost our constitutional protections, and it is a brave new world. And I don't say that to be hyperbolic. It is absolutely chilling what I have been seeing, what we have been reporting over the past couple weeks. And you all understand this. We are going to have to resist this. We're going to have to fight like hell against the implementation of so many aspects of this dystopian, destructive, tyrannical bill. That's going to be our job over the next 4 years. Are you ready to put your big boy pants on and your big girl pants on and fight back, protect yourself, declare independence from this fake two-party system and psyop after psyop? Let's go, because we can still win. But this is what Patrick Wood had to say. This will be run by technocrats for technocratic ends. There will be no public input or involvement. For everyone who scoffed, politicians, academics, and citizens who have been carping at Patrick Wood for the last 18 years, as I warned you what was coming, will you please get your head on straight now? If these digital maniacs are not stopped, it is game over for freedom and liberty, for sanctity of life and humanness itself. And that was the quote from Patrick Wood over at Technocracy. The only people who can see this are the people who are fully emancipated from the two-party political system. And this is why I have been introducing so many new guests into the Joy Virtual Studio from all different backgrounds. These are people who are independent, who understand the nature of the times that we live in. And let me tell you, the technocracy is worst, it's at its worst in the United States of America. This piece that I linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, AI.Gov, the digital Leviathan, launching this Independence Day tomorrow. Have you heard about AI.Gov? You probably haven't, because they've been keeping it a secret. Well, we know what's going on thanks to the good work of Patrick Wood over at technocracy.news. We're going to look at that in a moment. But first, I do want to thank our sponsors over at Colonial Metals Group. You guys know Colonial Metals Group, unbelievable sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show. I'm working with them right now to set up my own personalized, independent IRA backed by gold and silver. I'm learning all about the process. I cannot believe how fast and easy it was, actually. It took about 30 to 40 minutes. I can't wait to tell you all about my experience, but you have to get your gold and silver strategy in place. These headlines are unbelievable. This is from our friend Todd Sawyer in his latest Substack. on for Colonial Metals Group. The economic implications behind Costco and Walmart's shocking gold rush. Did you know that quietly last year, Costco began to sell physical gold over the counter to their customers? It has exploded in growth. This is what Todd had to say. America's favorite wholesale megastore, Costco, famous for offering everything you can imagine under the sun, is now marketing gold and selling it to their clientele. In May, Costco tightened purchase restrictions because of the demand, which has exploded. Regular Americans get what is happening. They understand the debt and the deficit, the trillions of dollars in spending, the fact that nothing has changed substantially since this president, Donald Trump, has come into office. This is why it's not just the institutional banks, it's not just foreign government, it's not just the big investors, it's mom and pop now. It is regular Americans. Understand, you are instinctively understanding something is very, very wrong in our markets. And that is why demand is through the roof at Costco. They are now limiting members to one transaction, capped at a maximum of 2 bars per day. In its 2025 first quarter report, the retailer listed gold among its top sales categories. What does that tell you? There's more. Now, Walmart, the other big mega discount store in the US, the world's largest retailer, is joining the gold rush and has begun offering 1-ounce gold bars alongside groceries, electronics, and gardening tools. The question is, why have so many Americans rushed to buy gold? Well, we know the answer. If you're in the Shannon Joy Show audience, you have been preparing for the past year because we've been warning you. We have been looking past the headlines, past the propaganda about Bitcoin and crypto and stable coins and tokens. We've been looking past the headlines that have been fraudulently delivered to conservative audiences by people like Sean Hannity and Mark Levin, who are lying, telling you that the economy is in great shape, that we're entering a golden era. That is absolutely false. And I am so proud that this audience has been prepared. You have been purchasing gold and silver from Colonial Metals Group, backing up your retirement with an individual IRA using our amazing partners at Colonial Metals Group. And there are so many of you who are now prepared. I want to tell every one of you, those of you who haven't done that yet, it is not too late. The vast majority of Americans have not even woken up to this. And we are looking at what I think is potentially the bottom of where gold and silver can go in the near future. Why? Because it's a tale as old as time. When there is political chaos, when there is fiscal chaos, geopolitical chaos, and war, humans have always gone back to gold and silver. People know that the national debt is soaring. They know that the purchasing power of the US dollar is falling fast and inflation is rampant. And this is why people are getting into gold. Please consider going to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy today. Do not wait. I know so many of you are waiting. You're holding on. You're thinking, wow, I'm getting in too late. You are not. Okay. This is something that every American needs to look into and needs to consider. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy for physical gold and silver, and also to learn about a gold and silver backed IRA. Protect your retirement. You've been saving your entire life. Do not let these profligate spenders, these charlatans in Washington, D.C., steal what you have worked for your entire life. So if you're a retiree, this is something you're going to want to consider. Okay. So back to the news of the day. Again, we're bringing in our good friend, Aaron Day. He is an expert in technocracy, another prophet, so to speak, warning people for years about where things are going. He's going to be joining us in just about 10 minutes or so. I do want to alert all of you in the show notes. This was sent to me from my good friend John Gilmore of the Autism Action Network, and also our good friend Michael Kane. massive victories in New York State. Teachers for Choice and Autism Action Network, John Gilmore and Michael Caine, who you guys have met on the Shannon Joy Show, they have succeeded through grassroots, bottom-up organization and political lobbying in Washington, D.C. in defeating every single horrifying, freedom-crushing vaccine expansion bill, vaccine tyranny bill, medical tyranny bill in New York State. It is an overwhelming victory. I am so proud of them. And we are now pushing the pedal to the metal here in New York with a class action lawsuit. This is for families who were denied medical exemptions by New York State schools. Damages will be sought. This morning, I signed up for this class action lawsuit. As you know, my 3 children had medical exemptions for New York State mandated, CDC recommended vaccines for entrance into the public school system. They were denied their medical exemptions. They were denied a religious exemption, multiple exemptions, and they were denied education. My boys were kicked out of school for a full week in 2023 as we fought like hell for them. So I am proud to sign up for this class action lawsuit. I want justice. If you wonder why I am so irritated and I so refuse to let go of this vaccine injured in this vaccine issue and those who were vaccine injured, my boys, my children, my son and daughter were injured by CDC recommended and New York State mandated vaccines when they were just small children. Both had severe neurological adverse injuries from the DTaP polio. And because of that, I have obtained multiple medical exemptions. New York State denied those. So we are still suffering here in New York State. And I don't need to go further into what my family has gone through as a result of this, but I can tell you it's one of the most harrowing, horrifying things I have ever experienced in my entire life. And I'll get choked up even talking about it. I was talking to John Gilmore about it this morning, and so vicious, so evil, so fascistic. New York State is unlike any place in the entire world with their mandated vaccine policies. There is a link. If you live in New York State, if your child was denied their medical exemptions, if your child was denied an education, if you have damages, if you have suffered as a result of these policies, I want you to click on that link. You can fill out the form and see if you can join this class action lawsuit. We're still going for justice in New York State. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care how often they betray us in Washington, D.C., this decrepit 2-party political system. They're all liars, charlatans, tyrants. They're all in it for money or power. They don't care about people. They don't care how many children are dead because of their CDC policies, even this administration. And you know what? That might be disturbing, and it might, we might feel betrayed by that. But as you guys know, on this show, we never fear and we never, ever give up. I don't care how many times we lose. I don't care how many times we try to fight for justice and they shoot us down. You know that I'm going to get back up. We're going to get back up and we're going to fight like hell until we achieve our liberty, because I have children and they need liberty. And so I'll never stop. Ever, ever, ever. New York State is the belly of the beast, MAV 2022. I agree with you. So this piece from Patrick Wood over at Technocracy is one of the best I have seen. It is an overview of what the technocracy is and what is happening tomorrow as they usher in, Donald Trump ushers in AI.Gov. This is so chilling. This is so chilling. And Aaron Day is with us. I'm going to go over this. I'm going to try to get through this in about 5 minutes. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to bring Aaron in for the rest of this show. But I want to get through just the highlights of this piece. Everyone needs to click on this piece, read it twice, and then send it to everyone you know. You need to know what is coming, what is being ushered in by this president as he hands this nation over to techno-fascists. There is no other way to describe Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Silicon Valley tech bros, and all of the technocrats who are surrounding this president. He is literally selling our nation, our constitution, our founding, our independent to these just absolutely terrifying characters. So this is what the title of the piece is: AI.Gov, the digital Leviathan launching this Independence Day. In addition to what Aaron Day has so brilliantly named the Big Brother Bill, the Big Betrayal Bill, the BBB, they are also ushering in, and they tried to hide this, AI.Gov. This is what was reported by technocracy.info. Beautiful souls, we stand at the precipice of the most dangerous transformation in American governance since the founding of our republic. While you have been distracted by the theater of partisan politics, a far more sinister revolution has been quietly orchestrating itself in the shadows of Silicon Valley boardrooms and federal bureaucracies. On July 4th, 2025, tomorrow, the Trump administration will launch AI.Gov, a centralized artificial intelligence command center that represents nothing less than the digitization of tyranny. This isn't hyperbole or conspiracy theory. This is documented fact, leaked from government repositories and confirmed by multiple sources. What you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you understand the battle for human agency, for human freedom, for natural rights in the 21st century. The veil of secrecy surrounding AI.Gov was torn away when researchers at 404 Media discovered a publicly accessible GitHub repository containing the project's complete blueprint. Before government officials could slam the door shut, the entire architecture of America's technocratic, techno-fascist future had been exposed to public scrutiny. AI is not just another government website. AI.Gov is not just another government website. It is a unified platform designed to give federal agencies unprecedented power to monitor, analyze, and control every aspect of digital life within government operations, with the infrastructure already in place to extend far beyond. The platform consists of components, primary components, three of them, put together to form what they call the trinity of technocratic control. The first is the AI chatbot assistant, which we'll go into with Aaron Day in just a moment. The second is the unified API framework. And the third is, hold on, let me find it, the console, the Panopticon dashboard. This is the most chilling component. Console provides real-time monitoring of AI usage across every government agency. It tracks which tools the federal employees are using, analyzes their performance, and enables managers to optimize resource allocation. In plain English, comprehensive workplace surveillance disguised as management analytics throughout every aspect of the US government, which includes all of your information as well. Meet your new overlords, guys. They are contracting with unelected, right, unaccountable, technocratic oligarchs. Okay, this is your new government. So we're going to get into this piece. He also, the thing I also really like about this piece from Patrick Wood, and actually the author of the piece is Courtney Turner, and it was shared via her Substack. So check out Courtney Turner. This is a really good piece. But it also juxtaposes, or it scrutinizes, technocracy, which is techno-fascism, right next to the Constitution and what it is to be a constitutional republic. So they look at the basis of authority, decision-making processes, the role of the individual and protections of individual rights, accountability of government organizations and government bureaucracies at every level, local, statewide, and at the federal level, and also the philosophy of governance. And when you realize how bad this ideology is, the fascist ideology of technocracy is, you will understand what Donald Trump has done to this country, and the Republicans and the Democrats, Biden as well. But they're locking in under Trump. Isn't that ironic? We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're bringing in, without further ado, our special guest today, technocracy expert and digital currency crypto expert, Aaron Day. We're going to be talking about the finances. We're going to talk about tomorrow, July 4th, 2025, and rumors of a bioterror attack to usher in God knows what. We're also going to talk about what he has been warning Americans about for quite some time, the ideology of technocracy. So keep it tuned right here. There is no better person today to have on the show the day before July 4th, 2025 than Aaron Day. He has been stalwart. He has been consistent. He's one of the best out there, and we're going to learn from him today on the Shannon Joy Show. Sat123.com is an amazing company. Again, on the theme of chaos and cyber attacks, lockdowns, shutdowns, natural disasters, rogue governments, World War III, right? We cannot predict what is going to happen in the next 10 days, let alone the next 10 months, right? This news cycle moves so fast, and it's why many Americans are uneasy and preparing in a million different ways, whether it's gold and silver to protect your family if there's an economic collapse, to protect your retirement if there's an economic collapse, also getting food and water and those necessities that can, support your family if there is a lockdown or a shutdown. And right here, I mean, we're going to get to this in a minute, but Israel is in another lockdown situation right now. So this is why it's so important to just have everything prepared. And the satellite phone store, in addition to having satellite phones, again, if cellular goes down, the 5G, 4G, 3G, the towers go down, there's a cyber attack, all you have is the satellite phone, right? And it works, right? This is a way for you to be in contact with your friends and family to let them know that everything is okay. I have a satellite phone. It gives me an enormous amount of peace of mind, and it is going to work when those towers come down, when they don't. So many people have been blessed because of satellite phones. They've been able to bless their neighbors in natural disasters and emergency situations, something I've talked with Tina Blanco, who is the founder and CEO of Satellite Phone Store, about very often. You could be that one person in your neighborhood that could help people get in touch with loved ones if for some reason everything goes down. They also have generators and solar panels, Faraday products, bivy sticks. Bivy sticks are amazing. It's a device that you actually use with your cell phone that turns your cell phone into a satellite phone, right? If the towers go down, and it's a little more affordable than a full cell phone package. But Satellite Phone Store always makes those packages affordable for the Joy audience. Right now, free Faraday bulletproof backpack when you sign up for a year with the Satellite Phone Store. So you get the free phone, you get a nice low monthly rate for the service, and also a very high value. I want to say it's worth a couple $100. The Faraday, which is the EMF blocking technology, bulletproof backpack. It's a great thing to send your kids off to college with. I sent one down to my son Jackson. He uses it. And it just gives me some peace of mind there. So sat123.com/joy, sat123.com/joy. As you guys know, I love the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. Listen, if you can buy a house with gold and silver, which you are almost able to do in the great state of Florida, given what Governor Ron DeSantis has been doing, not only with making gold and silver legal tender, but also beginning the process of establishing a state sovereign bank. Man, if you can buy a house with gold and silver, why wouldn't you back your retirement, or at least a portion of your retirement, with gold and silver. You guys know chaos is the name of the game. In fact, ever since the day that President Trump stepped into office, it's been pure chaos. Whether it's erratic tariffs, actually taxes levied on the American people, insider trading that we're seeing blatantly from this administration and friends of this administration, massive bloated budgets that look exactly like Biden era budgets and Obama era budgets, debt and deficit, the continuation of the printing of money and the devaluation of the dollar, inflation as far as the eye can see, and now chaos in our streets, right? It is all chaos. There is one hedge against chaos when it comes to your finances, and that is gold and silver. It's a metals strategy, whether it's gold and silver in your safe or in a safety deposit box, or backing up your retirement with an individual self-directed IRA backed by gold. This is what so many Americans are very quickly realizing is the hedge to chaos. They can do anything they want, but they can't come after your gold and they can't touch your gold. And this is why it is so important to call Colonial Metals Group right now. Okay. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Do not wait. I know there are so many of you out there. You have heard me talk about Colonial Metals Group, the amazing staff, how awesome they are for many, many years, and you have held off. Today is the day. Do not wait. I think that there's still a lot of room actually for the value of gold and silver to grow. And there's a lot from our friend Jesse Colombo and Peter Schiff on the fact that they're still very bullish on these metals. So it's not too late, but you need to get that strategy in place right now. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. They're giving away $7,500 in free silver to the Joy audience for those of you who qualify. This is a limited time deal, but you have to go to my page, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, to learn about that offer. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show, July 3rd, the day before Enslavement Day. That's right, the big brother bill, the big betrayal bill. While MAGA worships their golden idol, Donald Trump, he is ushering in the most dystopian, techno-fascist agenda we have ever seen in American history. And it is at a breathtaking pace. Aaron Day joins us today on the Shannon Joy Show. He is an expert on the technocracy. He has been following this, ringing the alarm bell. I don't know, Aaron, I think the first time I had you on was over 24 months ago, post-COVID lockdown. You have been so consistent. Please follow Aaron Day. He's on Twitter. His handle is at Aaron R. Day. His website is daylightfreedom.org. He has a podcast. He's uploading podcasts about once a week, but he's going to be ramping that up. Aaron, welcome back to the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you for your hard work on all of this.
Thank you for having me back.
So am I being hyperbolic in the in my language regarding what we are about to see ushered in on July 4th from one, the Big Brother Big Betrayal bill, and two, AI.Gov, which is a remaking of entire governmental systems within the federal government? Am I overstating how dangerous this is?
No, you're not overstating it. In fact, that's only, it scratches the surface. There are other things that have happened in terms of real ID, and then what's going on with this stablecoin legislation, which is essentially a backdoor CBDC, which passed the Senate. So, we're full on technocracy. I mean, this is more has been done in the last 6 months under Trump than in 4 years under Biden.
Unbelievable. Yes, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden would never achieve this in a million years. There would be pushback. There would be outrage. There would be revolt. But because it's the golden god, Donald Trump, everyone is asleep. And that's what makes Trump such a Trojan horse, so dangerous to liberty and freedom. And he has just tricked so many people. Let's start at the top, Aaron. From your perspective, can you define and describe how you see the technocracy, the ideology of technocracy? I call it techno-fascism because sometimes I feel like technocracy doesn't do it justice, right? Because the ideology is something people just don't understand. But can you define for the audience again what you see the technocracy as, what the ideology represents?
So the simplest way to describe technocracy is it's a form of governance where you have elites picking scientists and engineers, and those scientists and engineers make decisions for everyone in society from a top-down basis. One of the other really important aspects of technocracy, and this technocracy movement has been around since the 1930s, but at the heart of it is actually switching the entire economy from being a price-based system to having a currency that's based on energy credits or carbon credits. And so this
Mm,
is also right at the center of this. And so a lot of people confuse technocracy for technology. And so if you say technocracy, I'm against technocracy, they're like, well, you don't like, computers, or you're against, using technology which can make things more efficient, and has
right.
nothing to do with that. It's absolutely an ideology, and at the heart of the ideology is it's anti-free will, because it basically says that we are not capable of making our own decisions on anything, because at the end of this process you essentially have a currency that's based on energy credits, but then you have a social credit system where the decisions that you make are actually predefined by the technocratic elite. And so this is really a complete assault on free will.
Aaron, can you walk us through a day in the life in a technocratic utopia? What would that look like? Because sometimes it is hard. We have these, when you try to explain an ideology, having people understand, like, what does that mean for an average citizen of the United States of America? What does their life look like in the utopia that is envisioned by the technocrats who are surrounding President Trump and who have essentially purchased the US government and his presidency?
So, under a technocracy, there really is no United States of America. The whole technocracy movement is actually a global movement. So, Technocracy Inc. started in the 1930s, and then it was picked up in 1973 by the Trilateral Commission, who
Mm,
then took these principles and ideas and infused it with the UN. The UN passed in 1974 something called the New International Economic Order, and
mhm.
that has become loosely the basis for UN Agenda 2030 and
Right.
the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So, in
Mm.
essence, what this looks like is there is no United States government, there's a global government. And the global government operates using, again, a digital currency that's tied to energy credits. So, it's all this manufactured scarcity around carbon, which they're building. They've been building this out actually for years, MasterCard and others, and we can get to that shortly. But the way you can look at it is you have this digital currency tied to energy credits, and then you have a social credit system that is essentially like the 17 sustainable development goals of the UN. And if you look at those 17 sustainable development goals, they want to regulate everything. They want to regulate the land, the air, the sea, where you can work, who you can interact with, what kind of language you can use. I mean, it's very all encompassing what is embedded within those sustainable development goals. So you're going to be looking at a situation where you're part of a global governance model, and your life is predefined down to the level of where you live, where you work, your speech, and what your economic activity is. All of that is where technocracy ends up.
How far are they along in the advancement of the digital ID, which is a critical component of the technocracy, and the digital currency?
So this is the alarming thing for me. So I don't have a real ID yet. I've been fighting that for a long time, but they actually first started pushing this real ID in 2005, and this was pushed after 9/11. And so now, there's always pushback. It was always delayed. The goalposts were always moved. And so I've managed to avoid it so far until my, next driver's license expires, which I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do at that point.
Right.
But Trump gets elected, and all of a sudden, Christy Nome pushes it and implements it. So now we actually have real ID. Well, the thing that people have to understand is real ID is the basis for a digital ID. In 8 states already, it is a digital ID. So in Arizona, California, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Maryland, Ohio, and Utah, your real ID, it can already be stored on smartphones within your Google Wallet and your Apple Wallet. So we're literally dealing with a situation where legislatively it's already been passed. They're already collecting all of the information and they're already moving it into a digital format in 8 states. And I'm sure it will expand to all 50. So we essentially have I would argue we already have a digital ID today. And again, this is something that uh, since 2005, no one has been able to actually implement it until Trump does it, and he uses the rationalization of, well, we need to do this to fight illegal immigration, and his supporters just lap it up, which is really frustrating because I don't think people are thinking through that all of this technocracy and all of the added surveillance will be weaponized against us. It's just a matter of time. Once there's a new administration in power, it's going to flip the other way, if not sooner. Right? I think Trump may very well weaponize this, not just against illegal immigrants, but against U.S. citizens sooner rather than later.
Certainly.
So we have a digital ID. We have, I think, Palantir is kind of the basis for AI surveillance and a social credit system. And I've said this before, and I want to reiterate it because a lot of people sit around and say, well, we don't want to become like China, which has this, this app that you can download, and it's done on a province by province basis. But basically, they track everything that you do, and they use incentives and penalties within their social credit system to drive human behavior. And
Right.
so I'll hear people say in America, "Well, that's never going to happen here. That's a long way off." We already have a social credit system. It's called the tax code.
Mm.
It's 75,000 pages long. It's 16 million words. And if you don't comply with it, and by the way, no one could possibly read the entire tax code or understand it as it changes and evolves constantly. But if
Certainly.
you don't comply with it, you go to prison. And so at least China has an app. We're literally in a situation where we have 75,000 pages of rules and we can't possibly know what they are. There's no app, and if we don't follow it, we go to prison.
Mm.
So it's now just a matter of time. One of the things that Elon Musk did, one of the things that Doge did early on in this process, which it wasn't cutting costs, of course. We haven't seen any materialization of that, but they gave an API to Palantir so that Palantir now has access to all Americans' IRS data. So Palantir is basically now at the point where they're taking information about Americans across different branches of the federal government and compiling it into one system.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And what type of the digital IDs? Now, I want to clear some things up. I see someone on the live chat saying you have to have a digital ID in New York to fly domestically. That's Zen Woman. That's not true. You can board a plane and fly in New York or any state with a passport. So you
Yeah.
do not need to show a digital ID. You can also, in New York State, convert your real ID, which I have, into an old fashioned New York State analog ID, which I plan to do as well. In addition, at the airport, you do not have to subject yourself to the biometric facial scan. That's another myth out there. You can decline. I decline the biometric facial scan every single time I fly. I never have a problem. I've never had a problem. Now, I also hear very often, I want to talk about what these digital IDs can collect. So, the types of information that could be collected, that the actual technology, Aaron. And I also want to ask you about one of the most common pushbacks that I get from people. They say, well, you're already being tracked. You signed up for an app, you're on the Twitter, your face is on Rumble and YouTube. And so just shut up, Shannon. It's all over. They have all your information anyway. There's no point in resisting this or pushing back. Now, I have fought against that rationale for a very long time. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But can we talk about the mechanism of the digital ID and what it can track, what it can trace, and you're saying that information is going clearly into a central governance system run by companies like Palantir and likely being filtered through. I mean, they're using AI to probably build profiles on us. But what do you make of that mechanism?
Well, yeah, I mean, so already, so this is what's collected with Real ID so far, but understand that the information is stored in a database. And so at any point in time, they can now start connecting these other databases. As I mentioned, now Palantir has access to IRS data, and they're doing this across other federal government departments. So I'm going to tell you what's already in it, but understand it's a database. And when they say they're using an API, which I think you referenced in the introduction, that just
Yes.
means that they're figuring out how to connect databases together so that
Yes.
they can pool all of the information into one shared system. But the real ID already includes your full legal name, it includes your date of birth, your main address, your signature, your social security number, and proof of social security eligibility. It includes information about, if you have a passport, your birth certificate, any foreign passports or employment authorization documents. It includes
Wow.
information about your driver history and violations, and other information. So that's the baseline, because that's actually what's required to get the real ID set up. So then they're building on top of that. So now they're integrating that with Google Wallets, Apple Wallets, and then they're going to begin connecting other sources of data, because now once they have all of these data points on you, they can then pull in your tax records, and they can pull in whatever else is being collected. And I can't even imagine how deep that goes when you look at what Edward Snowden has already told us about what is being pooled through the NSA. I mean, essentially, they're going to know everything about us. And I will say, having done a lot of
They're gonna
political activism,
try.
you can buy databases for with voter data, where you get 400 to 500 different pieces of information on each voter,
Mm.
including where they live, an estimate of their net worth, where they rank likely on like 20 different political issues on a scale from 0 to 100, what kind of magazine subscriptions you like. So, I mean, the issue is they're just going to be able to continue to connect the dots and to continue pulling in information from other sources: credit card transaction history, bank information. When you sign up for a bank account, if you ever read the terms and conditions of the bank account, they can change the terms and conditions without your consent. They can sell or share your information, and they can change fees without your consent. I mean, and they can cancel your bank account at any time without cause. This is a whole other separate issue, but essentially, we've been conditioned over the last 20 years or so to sign these what are called click wrap agreements, where we get a new computer, or we sign up for iTunes, we sign up for Spotify, and everybody does this. I do this as well. It says, well, hey, read the terms of service, and everybody scrolls down to the end and clicks
Right.
accept.
Right.
But when you actually look at what's in these agreements, not that you can send red lines back to a lawyer or get them changed, but some of these documents, just uh, the online services agreement for Wells Fargo is 30 pages. The Amazon agreement is like, 25,000 words. If you were to read all of these agreements, it would take 1 hour a day, 365 days a year. And that's just for the average person. If you use more online services, obviously it's going to be even greater than that. But what we've given away in these agreements is our privacy, our rights to our information. In many cases, we've given away our ownership of financial assets. That's a whole other conversation. Something called the Great Taking. There are a whole bunch of other things that have been going on behind the scenes. And the most absurd example of this is there was a situation last year where a doctor died from food poisoning at a restaurant that was on a Disney property. And Disney tried to use the fact that the doctor had signed the Disney online services agreement to get out of the liability. So, this doctor
Mm.
basically had an account to watch Mickey Mouse and whatever the Disney movies are, and they were trying to use and enforce some of the terms and conditions in that agreement to get out of the food poisoning case. They were unsuccessful in that instance, but I
Right.
highlight this just because this is how in depth these contractual obligations are that we sign up for. And when you then look at the fact that we're now moving things more digital, between a digital ID, Palantir AI surveillance, and then what I will call is stable coins as backdoor CBDCs, it's going to make it that much easier for them to track, program our behavior, and censor us.
Wow. I was going to ask you about whether there has been pushback about those service agreements, and I'm glad that you mentioned that legal case, because we do need to push back against this. Can you, for a moment, just briefly try to overview the Great Taking for this audience? Because I have seen a lot written on that. I've done a cursory amount of research into it, but can you help the audience understand what the Great Taking is?
Yeah, so the idea behind this is that we don't own the stocks in publicly traded companies, or we don't own the financial instruments that are in ETFs. What's happened is we go through brokers, and these brokers, we have these contractual relationships with brokers. And what's happened since 1994, there have been changes that have been made in all 50 states, where essentially, let's say there's another financial collapse that's worse than 2008, which it is kind of likely actually at this point
Coming.
where
Yeah,
things are heading.
obvious.
uh, you might think, well, hey, you know what? I own these shares in, Microsoft or Google or whatever it happens to be, or I own my ETF. So if my broker goes bankrupt because they were involved in derivatives and they were gambling and doing the kinds of things that brokers tend to do, your intuition might be, well, hey, but those are still my shares. Well, it turns out those are not your shares because of these changes that have gone on in all 50 states. In the event of a bankruptcy, the secured creditor for your broker is in the first position, and there have been extra laws put in place that give special preferential treatment to the four largest banks in the United States, which are Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and JP Morgan Chase. So your broker goes bust because of financial collapse, and then all of a sudden your shares are handed over to the bank, not in your own possession. And that this is only part of the problem. We've already given up most of our rights to these financial instruments anyway. So most people have 401ks at this point, and they get these 401ks through their work. And so what is a 401k? Well, it's a basically a basket of different stocks.
Mhm.
And where, your employer matches and puts money in every pay period or whatever it happens to be. But if you own shares in a company, you have the right to vote those shares. I mean, this is typically what the whole concept is of being a stockholder and owning shares.
Right.
But because of the way 401ks work and because of the way ETFs work, contractually, you've given those rights away to BlackRock, to Vanguard, and to State Street, who are kind of the largest organizations providing these services, and Fidelity, and there are a bunch of others. But contractually, they vote all of the shares. This is why you don't get notices in the mail. What do you think of, this DEI policy, or what do you think
Right.
about this? Or you have no say in it because you've already given up your contractual rights to these organizations, and most people don't even realize that they've done it.
So in the next financial collapse, which I think the writing's on the wall, okay, the cow has left the barn, the cat is out of the bag. I think it's obvious. Walmart is selling 1 ounce gold bars. Okay, so I think that debt deficit trillions of dollars. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed except it's worse under Trump. Okay, so Biden was really bad. Trump comes in. Nothing has changed. Only it's worse. Okay, that's the analysis. That's the only analysis that you can make. If you are a political analyst out there and you're omitting this or ignoring this, then you suck. Okay, at your job. You're very bad at your job. Anyway, so what you're saying is in the next financial collapse, banks win. The four top banks biggest banks get preferential treatment. They get a bailout that will make 2008 blush. And every pensioner, every 401k holder, everyone who is invested in the markets, should they collapse, gets left carrying the bag. You're broke. And then what are they going to do, Aaron? They're going to come in and say, oh, don't worry, don't worry. We have this new stablecoin system, right? Don't worry. We're going to replace the money you lost with this new handy dandy global currency system called stablecoin. And don't worry, it's not a central bank digital currency. It's a private banked currency. And you have all the Bitcoin people and the stablecoin people and the Tether people and all of the technocrats who have purchased our government and our president, ready to come in and save everyone. But that's when you lock in. That's when you have no money. You own nothing and you're happy. The culmination of the Great Reset. Thank you, Klaus Schwab. We have now the final nail in the coffin. They connect that digital currency to your digital ID and they gotcha. Am I overstating this? Am I getting it wrong? Like, is that kind of how you think this might play out?
That's exactly how it's going to play out, and they've been building towards this because so one way of looking at CBDCs or stable coins is it's just our money is already programmable. In fact, I've been trying to argue for a while. We essentially already have a CBDC because the Federal Reserve The government goes to the Federal Reserve and gives them an IOU, and then the Federal Reserve creates a money out of thin air in an Oracle database. This is actually what when the government is writing all of the checks, they're writing it out of an Oracle database
Mm,
at the Federal Reserve. So that is by definition a central bank digital currency. Other banks, commercial banks, also have their own digital currency, and it's already programmable and it's already tracked. And so people, again, to use the analogy that I said at the beginning, people think that China has a social credit system, but we actually have a worse one because it's the tax code, and we have no transparency or ability to stay on top of whether we're complying or not.
right.
With our money, which is largely digital now. I mean, I think 96% of the financial transactions done in this country are digital. Everybody's paycheck is done through direct deposit. People pay their mortgages. I mean, I know there's a movement for people to use cash on Fridays, but that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of,
Yeah.
as a percentage of the fact that we have this digital money.
But
And to
remember,
let
Aaron, though, cash, 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 cash. Remember, I know you don't love cash, but right? Remember, we don't need every American. We know that 90% of Americans are going to go off the cliff. Okay, we know that. This is why Jesus Christ called them sheep. This is, I mean, this is as old as time. All right, that 90% of the people are going to take the vaccine. They're going to take the shot. They're going to poison themselves. They're going to take the digital ID. They're going to do the things. But we also know throughout human history that a very small, motivated 1 to 3 to 10%, if they fully resist, they absolutely refuse to comply as much as they can, that you can really throw some serious, serious wrenches in their plan. And so
you,
that's why, go ahead.
well, you can, but historically, we haven't had the kind of AI and surveillance systems that we have right now. And the other thing that
I
I find,
know. I don't
the
think
other
that
thing,
there's, yeah, go ahead.
well, the thing that's problematic about this is, again, let's look at everybody was selling this idea, including Elon, that if Trump doesn't win, it's the end of Western civilization. Everybody was saying
Right.
we're going to restore the republic. RFK is going to come in and fix public health, and all we've done is add tyranny in all of these areas.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, from an ideological perspective, there are two people that are driving the ideas behind this. There is a guy named Curtis Yarvin who is driving these
Mm,
ideas from the right, and there's a guy named Yuval Noah Harari who's pushing it from the left. But in the end, they both get to the same place. They both are pushing technocracy. This guy Yarvin has heavily influenced Peter Thiel, JD Vance, and Elon Musk. And when you
mm,
read what he has to say, he's anti-democracy, which, I mean, I understand that being anti-democracy in the sense of democracy versus a constitutional republic that
Republic. Right.
preserves rights, but that's not actually what he's talking about. What
Mm,
he's talking about is that we need to replace the hierarchy, the authority system, where we've given up our authority now to politicians elected democratically. And now what he's pushing is we need to give up our authority to technocrats who are, and what he's selling is that, well, these technocrats are the most competent among us, and so this is a better solution. So that's how Yarvin gets at technocracy, and he's heavily influenced, as I said, Musk, Thiel, and JD Vance, and people aren't aware of this. This goes back to this idea that people say, well, we should want technology applied to government because it'll make things more efficient. That is not the agenda. The agenda
right.
is explicitly ideological, and it is explicitly about giving control to the elites. There's no like conspiracy theory about this. Yarvin has written about this quite extensively. You can find all of his information online. Peter Thiel is invested in one of his companies. I mean, there's no lack of direct, concrete information out there about this, and so this should be the most alarming aspect of this. What I'm frustrated about is having a lot of people in the friends that are in the libertarian space. Libertarians are buying this, so you
Mm,
have everybody from the left to MAGA to libertarians all buying different flavors of this rationalization for technocracy. So I agree, it doesn't take a lot of people to put up a resistance, but we're worse off now by
yeah.
far than we were a year ago. In fact, I was at Chris Martenson has an annual event for peak prosperity, and he did
Yeah.
this really cool thing where he divided people. He wanted to see statistically what people thought the probability of various outcomes were based on the election. So what is the outcome? What is the likelihood of a CBDC? What is the likelihood of a nuclear war? What is the likelihood of famine, et cetera? And people would basically line up in different columns. So do you think there's
Mhm.
100% chance, 95%, all the way down to zero? And so he was able to actually, he was on top of a deck and like take pictures of where people were physically standing in these lines. It was a really cool experiment. But overwhelmingly, people thought Harris would implement a CBDC. And my wife and I were the only two in the 100% camp of,
Of course.
we're going to get this under Trump. And what people don't
Me too.
realize is we're getting something worse than a CBDC with this stablecoin legislation, and people aren't even paying attention to it.
The stablecoin legislation, can you explain that to when you say that Trump's stablecoin legislation is worse, WORSE, worse than anything that has been hatched up by Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any of the Democrats? Can you explain why Trump's private banking digital currency is a worse scenario?
Yes. So 11 countries have implemented CBDCs so far. 8 of those are in the Caribbean. And so they're small countries, but you have Nigeria, China, and others that have started to roll out CBDCs. And the rollout hasn't been hugely successful. It's been pretty slow going, even in China, which started their CBDC in 2014. It's still ongoing, but it hasn't had massive adoption. And in Nigeria, they were rioting about it
Wow.
and like burning
Love that.
ATMs and everything else. The
Yeah.
problem is what Trump has figured out how to do is to take stable coins, which are incredibly popular. So you have the two most popular, which are Tether and USDC. And last year, there was a combined $27 trillion worth of transactions done using these stable coins. So this is more than MasterCard. And based on the growth rate, by 2030, there will be more transaction volume using stable coins than MasterCard, Visa, and direct deposit combined. So
Wow.
so people like it. And there are reasons that people like it, which is that there are real issues with the banking system. It's hard to set up banking accounts if you're doing any kind of transaction overseas, cross border, or if you're in a country outside of the US and your currency is even worse than the dollar, which has lost, by the way, almost
Mhm.
11% of its value this year. You like the idea of a stable coin because a stable coin is essentially a digital token where one token equals $1. So,
Mhm.
like it or not, things are still priced in dollars. And so that's how people are used to buying and selling things. So these stable coins have become incredibly popular. The problem with this, there are numerous problems, and I wrote an article about this. It's unclear if these stable coins, in particular Tether, are even backed. If they're, it's kind of like the dollar's only backed by IOUs,
Mhm.
and now you have these stable coins that aren't even backed by the IOUs that
Anything.
the
Do you know
dollar is.
Do you know what I read, Aaron? And just I started to interrupt you for just a second. I read in the New York Times, interestingly enough, they did a deep dive into Donald Trump's finances as best as they could, right? And to see like, how rich is he? And he has become a billionaire over the past 6 months. Okay. He had a lot of debt, a lot of real estate debt. He was, unclear kind of what his financial situation was, but in just the past 6 months, through like massive investments or acquisition of like coins, like stable coins, Tether, Bitcoin, whatever it is, he now has, I think it's the largest percentage of his holdings now. It's just unbelievable, like tens of billions of dollars that he has built just like that. Like that's kind of when you look at, and then you ask yourself, is this even real? Right? It's so strange. But if the government makes it real, if they take away all other currencies and every other way for us to conduct business, commerce, in the US, then all of a sudden their dreams of a skyrocketing Bitcoin or stablecoin or whatever will come true because it has the boot of the federal government, of the global government on every system, right? Or on every citizen.
Yeah, there's actually a lot to respond to in that, and I actually want to say, so I'm going to go back to talking about what this stablecoin legislation actually does. So
Mm.
it takes the Tether and USDC, which are popular, but completely puts it under control of the United States Congress and the Federal Reserve.
Oh my
So, so all of the so all of the surveillance that we already have surveillance. I've outlined 13 different programs that are used to monitor our transactions. Everything
Right.
ranging from the IRS working with using AI with your bank to the Patriot Act to the Bank Secrecy Act and NSA bulk data collection and everything else. So again, people who think that our money is not being surveilled just haven't looked into it. Something just happened 2 months ago. Many people don't know this. When you do a transaction with your bank, if you do anything greater than $10,000, it automatically triggers what's called a suspicious activity report. So the Treasury
Mm.
Department gets a report anytime anybody does something through their bank account in the United States that's greater than $10,000. Well, once again, using the immigration issue, the illegal immigration issue, the Treasury Department just issued a memo that says for 30 zip codes, specific zip codes in Texas and California, we're reducing the threshold from $10,000 to $200. So now in those
No.
30 zip codes, and all they had to do was issue a memo. Technologically, the banks are already set up to do this because our money is already digital. So this is one of those things where I try to harp on the fact that, guys, we already have the surveillance and the programmability and the tracking that people fear that we're going to have in the future. I mean, the
Mhm.
frog is already boiling in the pot, and it does get worse from here. So this is something with the stablecoin legislation. So now, in order to be a stablecoin, you have to follow all of Congress's financial surveillance laws and bank secrecy laws,
Mm.
and you have to do audits monthly, which are controlled by the Federal Reserve. So that's not the worst of it. The reason that they're doing this, and the reason that everybody from David Sachs, our crypto AI czar, to Bessent, to the Treasury Secretary, to the Commerce Secretary, have been out there publicly pushing stablecoins, is that they're going to require by law that these stablecoins be backed one to one by only US treasuries and only dollars. In other words, as our debt is running up and our credit rating has dropped, people don't want to buy US treasuries anymore. They need a vehicle to sell US treasuries. So they're forcing these stable coins to be backed only by treasuries and dollars. Now, I don't know if Tether's backed or not, but they gave a conference where they said, well, we have 100,000 Bitcoin and we have X number of tons of gold. That will no longer qualify for backing Tether. Tether will have to go and buy treasuries and dollars in order to be able to continue to operate this stable coin. So we're going to be funding more war. We're going to be funding more debt and the expansion of the state. And they're using the hype of stable coins to do this. So in the end, what do we have? We end up with digital programmable money controlled by Congress, controlled by the Federal Reserve, that's used to sell US treasuries. And it's already popular. So we're capturing $27 trillion of annual transactions and growing. If Harris put in place a CBDC, there would be outrage. I mean, it would take 10 years or more to get to $27 trillion worth of transaction volume. The Trump administration and Congress is capturing that 27 trillion overnight through
Wow.
regulation.
Wow. I never use stablecoin, by the way. I don't use any of that crap. I'm old school. The answer is they just stay as far away from that stuff as humanly possible, because then they can manipulate it. And this is what this is where Catherine Austin fits. At the end, what's interesting in all of this is they're kind of like the dragnet, right? They're like grabbing as many Americans as they can in any way they can to get them into whatever this digital currency is, whatever kind of version of it. And so then your money becomes digital. It's X's and O's or ones and zeros in the cloud. They can erase it, they can control it, they can program it, they can do whatever they want, right? But all the smart people, right? The billionaires, the oligarchs, the foreign governments, the central banks, like they're all getting into the hard stuff, right? Like land, water, commodities, like physical assets, gold and silver. And so it's essentially what you can see from that 40,000-foot vantage point is that they know what's of value. The real, you know, tangible items, right? Everything that is not digital, trees, lakes, human beings, right? Claiming ownership of all of those real things, while the dummies and the masses, all the little people, are like, oh, please give me some digital, device here. And it ends up, it's really like when you think of the villain twisting his mustache, like, I want to rule the world and have everything, consolidated into just a few hands. You can really see them doing it. They're absolutely doing it.
They are doing it. I'm not against technology. There's the real battleground here is tokenization, and I won't get into all the details on that because we definitely don't have enough time. But there are privacy cryptocurrencies that can't be tracked by the government.
Yeah.
There's something called Freedom Dollar, which is a stable coin that's private, that's not backed by treasuries. It's backed by, we'll go into the details, but over collateralized Zano. So you get all of the benefits of the price, being able to do transactions priced in dollars, but it's private and you're not supporting
Right.
the state. So there are alternatives to this, but we're going headfirst into this. I want to say one more thing about Trump, though, related
Okay.
to this,
And
because
really quick, yeah, because we got to go to break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to do a quick break, and then we'll come back and finish. But yeah, on Trump.
okay, so you're absolutely right that Trump has made billions of dollars. It's frustrating to me to see, he'll donate his paycheck to some veterans cause, and people are like, see, look, he's sacrificing his money. In the meantime, he's using his social media accounts as president of the United States to pump a meme coin, right? This Trump meme coin, and then there's a thing called World Liberty Financial, which is their DeFi thing. But when it comes to stablecoins, the largest single investor in the Trump meme coin is a guy named Justin Sun. Justin Sun is a Chinese national. He also invested $30 million in World Liberty Financial. He's one of the largest shareholders in the Trump family DeFi thing. But it gets worse than that. Tether is the most popular stablecoin, and the blockchain that they use is called Tron, which is owned by Justin Sun. And it's tightly held. There are only 26 people that kind of control what transactions go on the network. So in essence, we're pushing stable coins where a Chinese national actually has the ability to control and possibly reverse transactions.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's grift. It's plunder right in front of our faces.
Well, it's
Aaron
worse
Day.
than,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Go. Yeah.
It's worse than Hunter Biden being on the board of a Ukrainian oil company. This is actually significantly worse than that.
It's right in our faces. It's training us that they are our masters. We are the slaves. They are going to, in full daylight, plunder this nation, steal from the American treasury, right? And use their influence and this country and its people, its citizens, to enrich themselves. And they're laughing about it all the way to the bank. We're talking to Aaron Day today. His website is daylightfreedom.org, daylightfreedom.org. So much information there. I recommend you tune in to Aaron every single week. He has a podcast. Follow him on X. His handle is at Aaron R. Day. We'll be back in a moment to continue this discussion right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Huge thank you to our friends over at Native Path. Guys, get your collagen 45% off right now. It is great for your hair, your nails, your bones. It not only helps you to look great, but it helps you to feel great as well. This has been my experience with, as you guys know, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy. He's very stubborn. He doesn't listen to me. I try, getting him on the vitamin D and the vitamin C and the regular protocols and all the things that are good for him. He's had the worst joint pain. He's super active, plays a lot of beach volleyball with the kids. He walks every day, is very fit. He eats great, has great discipline, but he was having joint pain, like a tennis elbow. His knees were hurting. And, about a month ago or 2 months ago, he was like, I think I'm just old. I think this is just the way that I'm supposed to feel now every day, where everything hurts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just please start taking the collagen, you stubborn thing. And I finally convinced him to do it. And he will tell you that his joint pain is almost gone. Like, he feels so much better on the daily collagen. He has been on it for about 2 weeks. He gets upset if we run low, and he's like, oh my gosh, we got to get you more collagen from Native Path. And it's just one of those things. As you get older, I feel like just needs to be worked into your life every single day. And as you guys know, I take my collagen every morning in my coffee. The Native Path collagen is clean. It dissolves perfectly and instantly. It has no flavor whatsoever. So you don't even know that it is in your coffee. My husband actually dumps in a Native Path hydrate and then the collagen in cold water every morning. I don't know how he does that, but anyway, he does. Very easy to take, and the price point is better than any product on the market when you use the Joy URL. So it's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy, getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. I'll pop it into the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And right now, 45% off. 45% off. It's an amazing deal. They have 6-jar bundles, 3-jar bundles, but you can really stock up for a year with the 45% off deal. It's amazing just for the Joy audience, and they give that only to this audience. So thank you to Native Path. I also love Native Path Complete Protein, also 41% off. Go to Native Path CompleteProtein.com/joy. Native Path Complete Protein, slash joy, 100% grass fed beef protein, not whey, not soy, not plant based. Okay. They don't do that over at Native Path. Only the best for the joy audience. This is to rebuild strength, maintain muscle support, a fast metabolism with absolutely no bloat whatsoever, because this is the cleanest product, the highest quality product, protein product you can get on the market. It is 110 calories, 20 grams packed with protein, and zero sugar, dairy free, no soy, no gluten. This is an amazing product. 41% off. Next week, we're going to feature some of the Joy family recipes. We use complete protein every day at my house. The kids love the chocolate flavor. Go to nativepathcompleteprotein.com/joy. That's nativepathcompleteprotein.com/joy to get your exclusive 41% off discount. This is just for the Joy audience, but it is going to end soon. So make sure you go to that website today. All right, welcome back to Aaron Day, to the Shannon Joy Show. As we finish this off, I know with you, I should always book a full hour and a half, man, because there is not enough time to get to everything I want to talk about. Aaron, you have presented something quite frightening, quite dystopian. It seems ubiquitous, inevitable. They seem so powerful. I do not want this audience to walk away from this interview thinking that there is nothing we can do. It's hopeless. Stick your head in the sand, light your hair on fire, and do nothing, because there's a lot that we can do. And so we're going to have you back in next week to do a full show on how people can prepare for this, how you can thrive amidst this chaos, how you can pull yourself out of the system as best you can, and how we can fight back. Does that sound okay to you, Aaron? Because I know that you present a scary picture here, but there are a lot of solutions to this, correct?
There are, yeah. I mean, I don't like to
Yeah.
just black pill people. I mean, there are
Right.
options, and I've been living outside of the banking system for 6 years, and so I actually do 4-hour workshops on this. So happy to introduce that as well.
We'll do a workshop. We'll do a consolidated workshop that is what you do all over the country next week. So I'll book you for that. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was, what I always get. I get pushback every single time I talk about technocracy or the techno-fascism. It is the shut up, Shannon, you're an idiot, you're a Luddite, right? And they have all of your information anyway. You're on Twitter, they're collecting all of your data. So just give it all up and don't do anything about it. Can you just let this audience know the flaw in that thinking? Because I think you probably are the best to articulate that.
Well, again, you can't comply your way out of technocracy. So they like to use what are called salami tactics. So slice by slice, they start taking a little here, a little there. For instance, with financial surveillance, it started with the Bank Secrecy Act, then the
Yeah.
Patriot Act, and then the CARES Act, and every time they add this. And so at some point, non-compliance is the way out, and there are technological solutions to this. In fact, the answer to the surveillance state is privacy. So there's a whole suite of privacy technology tools, ranging from
Ooh,
VPNs to privacy cryptocurrencies to different web browsers that
love
you
it.
can use and everything else. So you can opt out of that system today. Is it convenient? It's not as convenient, but I mean, the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you want to maintain free will? Do you want your kids and grandkids to have free will? Or do you want to become a slave to these technocratic elites? That's how important this decision is. So it's worth a little
Mm.
extra effort to focus on privacy.
I love that. Real quick, as we run out of time, what do you think about Bobby Kennedy Jr. and his statement about having every American on a wearable biosurveillance device in 4 years? What did you make of that?
This has been my concern with him all along, which is that we're not talking about health freedom anymore. What we're doing is we're saying, well, we're replacing the old guys with our guys, but now we're trying to push a very specific agenda. So I will tell you, replacing big pharma with Silicon Valley is not an upgrade in terms of health freedom at all. And if you want to look at this, I'll give you one example of how absurd this is. So Casey Means, who I believe is still up for Surgeon General,
Yes.
her whole thing is she's made a wearable to measure blood glucose. Well, here's the problem. It uses EMF, and the actual EMF itself raises your blood sugar level. So these devices have all kinds of problems that haven't been fully tested or vetted. So the idea that he's now pushing this, saying, "Oh, hey, we're going to bring in these venture capital people and Silicon Valley people and put wearables that are then probably going to be tied to a Palantir API and linked to all of your IRS data through your digital ID. This is, again, worse than what we had prior to RFK being in this position. And I know it's not popular to say, but it's absolutely true.
What about the Elon Musk latest psyop, the American Party? Talked about that yesterday.
So when we talk about technocracy, it's really important to study the history, and this is why I like Patrick Wood. But Elon Musk's grandfather was the head of the Technocracy Party in Canada. I view the American Party as being essentially the Technocracy Party. He's going to try to build a technocracy political party in the United States. That's 100% where it's going to go.
I agree. I agree. And he's got a lot of technocrats involved in this, and it will be a globalist type of party, I believe, as well. Let's not forget, Elon Musk loves his carbon credits. Okay. He envisions the entire economy functioning off of energy uses, individual energy uses. And he said that that was inevitable in an interview a couple years ago. So this
And
guy, yeah, I mean, we'll do a little bit more when I have you in next week. We'll do a little bit more on Elon Musk and the wearables and a whole host of other issues. Because, like always, I mean, you just come with such a wealth of information. Aaron Day, you're the best. Have a wonderful Independence Day. All right.
you too.
Resist. Even though they're plunging us into tyranny, we can still declare our independence from the false two-party political paradigm and Washington, D.C., and the digital technocracy by making choices every single day that value freedom over convenience and liberty over party politics, right? So this is something that we can make that choice every day. Aaron, thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Thank you for having me.
You're amazing. Please follow and support Aaron at Daylight Foundation. I'm sorry, daylightfreedom.org. And also on the twit, he is at Aaron R. Day. You guys are amazing. Annie, thank you for producing the Shannon Joy Show this week and every week. Thank you guys for all of your support. Thank you to our sponsors, Colonial Metals Group, the Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com, sat123.com, Native Path, and of course, Dom Polano, PCM and Associates. PCMPolano.com is his website. He's my personal financial advisor. And if you want a financial advisor that you can trust, that shares your values, please check out Dom. He's offering his services up to everyone in the country. So you guys are such a blessing to me. I hope that you have a wonderful Independence Day. Let's never, ever, ever, ever give up. Independence, our natural rights, our freedoms, our liberty. It is so precious, more precious than gold, more precious than silver, any amount of Bitcoin or crypto or any type of dollars. Let's fight for it, America. And you can know when we come back next week, we're going to continue this fight right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Happy Independence Day.